So it is common these days to hear the sentiment, science is progress and religion is backward. You believe in religion, you believe in fairy tales. You have been brainwashed. Clearly you are incapable of independent thought or critical analysis. I think it's important as Muslims to know where this came from, where it stands today, and what the reality of that assertion is, and what the general Muslim position is, understanding that even in the Muslim viewpoint there would be some debate and variance in the positions held. So where did it come from? Well, let's go back. It's the late 1950s, early 1960s. The World War is over. Europe is flattened. UK is divesting its colonies by giving them independence, cutting them loose, so to speak, and in part to focus on rebuilding based on the damages sustained in World War II, and in part under the terms of the Marshall Plan, as conditions to get funding for that reconstruction. So there's an ongoing ideological war between the capitalist West and the communist Europe across many fronts: nuclear, military, geopolitical, economic, social, and so on. This, of course, is the time of the Cuban Revolution, with Fidel and Che declaring a socialist state next door to the US. The Cold War is at its peak. The nuclear arms race is underway. American technology in the ANC helped Western forces repel North Korea and their attack on South Korea back in 1950. And communist Russia seems to be winning on the technology front. It not only launches the Sputnik 1 in 57, the first Earth-orbiting satellite, and the Sputnik 2 a month later, carrying the dog Laika into space, but also the Luna 2 in 59, the first man-made object to reach the moon, and then of course in 1961 the first human, Yuri Gagarin, to reach into space on board the Vostok 1. These are disturbing developments, of course, since scientific and technological superiority of the communist Russia can shift the balance of power, certainly in the West. Not to mention the ideological impressions on the minds of the global citizen. We saw the shift in focus in things like the toys that kids played with, for example, and the themes of fiction. So we saw, for example, a shift from the Wild West, cowboys and Indians, to sci-fi and aliens. None of this, of course, was helpful to the capitalist democratic West. So there was need to win this race into space. And to this end, we saw the formation of not only NASA in the 1950s, but also, I think more importantly, the NIST, the National Institute for Science and Technology. And the question was, what do we need in order to win this race? And the response, of course, we need more engineers and more technologists, STEM basically, science, technology, engineering, and maths. And to do that, we have to re-engineer the entire education system, the syllabus, the scholarships, the works. It is at this point we saw the secular movement and the separation between church and state come into play. In order to control the curriculum, we need the church-dominated schools to yield, to give us control of the syllabus. So if we are funding the school, we want to inform the content in order to help the country to achieve its goals and so on. Of course, from all this, we saw the grandeur of rocket science of that era, aeronautical engineering, and the formative years of computer sciences in the modern context. This rise of secularism, of course, gave a voice to the agnostic and the critical skeptics, establishing a solid foundation for atheism as we know it today. So you stop teaching about God, you focus on natural laws and principles, and you seek justifications from selections of specific authors' works, and the result is what we have, essentially materialist, godless society replete with moral relativism. Now, to be clear, the problems to Muslims is not so much the development of the science itself and the exploration and research, as was the objection with some other religions. For example, in the Meadows of Gold, al-Masudi wrote his famous condemnation of revelation over reason. The sciences were financially supported, honored everywhere, universally pursued, etc. Then the Christian religion appeared in Byzantium, and the centers of learning were eliminated, and their vestiges effaced, and the edifice of Greek learning was obliterated, and so on. But this is not so much consistent with the Muslim perspective. In fact, in Islam, Muslims propel the development in science, as we'll see later on. And the problem was rather the removal of the religious ethic that contained development within a self-regulating ethic of morality, focusing developments on what would be to the greater good, not necessarily for political gain so much as it would have been for the population itself. Well, that being the case, the sentiment is that science is progress and religion is backward. And that was, in a nutshell, how we got there.